in the season. Like, dude, talk about this in February. Like, the NFL knows how to dominate their news cycle, and they just give you a little bit of crumbs every couple months, every few weeks to satisfy you in the off season. Like, college football is like, season's about to start. Well, we made new rules, and now all the players can get paid. You guys prepare for the new season.
Speaking of the new season, though, Matt Green, the coaches poll came out this week, and my question to you, of the top 10 teams, Tennessee coming in there right at number 10, of those top 10 teams, we know that at least a couple are not going to finish the season ranked. But I'm just asking you, give me the one that you are most confident finishes unranked this year after starting out in the top 10 here.
Unranked. So for our listeners here, we got Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, and LSU, and 1 through 5, and then USC, Penn State, Florida State, Clemson, and Tennessee, 6 through 10. Of those 10, oh man, in terms of finishing unranked, I really think Tennessee is like the only candidate to finish unranked in this group. I think Florida State, I am not as high on Florida State as others, but I don't think this team can lose like 4 games or anything like that. Like, I think Florida State and Tennessee would be probably my only two, because Tennessee, I think, is taking a step back. Like, I don't think they're going to finish the season unranked. Like, I think this team's can be a 9-win, maybe even 10-win team, like a 9-4 Tennessee with losses to maybe number 1 and number 5 Alabama, Georgia and Alabama, or something like that. Maybe number 1 and number 2 at Georgia and Alabama. And I'm not sure who else could potentially be up there. Maybe number
Florida.
20 Kentucky or something. Yeah, who knows what
happens.
They're
not losing Kentucky.
Relax. Number 12 South Carolina, maybe. No. But Tennessee, with a 9-win schedule, they'd probably be like ranked 20th or so, something like that. But I think just looking at a lot of those teams, like I think Penn State could be a really good team this year. Like Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, I think those are all 10-win, maybe 11-win teams this year. Like there doesn't seem like Georgia and Alabama, you know what you're getting from those teams. Like they're not winning less than 10 games this year. Like LSU is a team that's like a lot of hype that you don't know necessarily, but I feel like LSU is going to be a really good team. So I don't know. I think Clemson's going to be improved as well. I feel like they also have a floor of like 9 wins at the absolute worst. Like, so I think Tennessee's the only team that like, especially if you told me if one of these teams is going to win 7 games, like Tennessee is the only team on this in the top 10 that could win 7 games next year.
I think Penn State could absolutely win 7 games. Like Penn State could win the Big Ten, and they could also win 7 games. Like I think Penn State's actually my pick here, the most mercurial. Where this is a big year for James Franklin. Like it's easy to get wrapped up in, hey, Drew Aller, he could be the guy. You have a bunch of talent on both sides of the ball. You should be a top 10 team this year. You should not fall out of it. But we have to see it. Like this is a lot of unproven guys. Like it's hard to have 3 behemoths in the top 10 here in the Big Ten. Like a lot went right for Penn State last year. Sean Clifford won a lot of games. They were ready to move on. But you look at this for Penn State. 11-2 last year. Great. The year prior, they were 7-6, Matt Green. 2020, weird year, 4-5. He's had a 9-4 year. He's had an 11-2 year. He's kind of all over the place. His first 2 years at Penn State, 7-6. You think he gets over the hump with 11-3 and 11-2, then back down to 9-4. He gets over the hump again, 11-2, 4-5. 7-6, 11-2. I think he's actually kind of topsy-turvy more than people think. So, like, if you told me he won 11 games this year and they maybe made the playoff, wouldn't surprise me. If you told me that Penn State had some bad luck, Drew Aller had some Graham Mertz to him, and it just didn't work out, and he was not the prince who was promised in Happy Valley, hey, that wouldn't shock me either. It's not that I'm betting on it, but I think there's more variability in the way the Nittany Lions season goes than Tennessee. I just think Tennessee's floor, is so high with this offense that it's going to be very hard for them to finish unranked to me, because I just think with this offense and with what they have at their skill positions right now, they're walking into 9 wins, and 9-win SEC team is not finishing the year unranked.
Before you get into Tennessee, though, going back to Penn State, like, I don't think you're giving James Franklin enough credit for like the consistency. Like
I like James Franklin.
But you go back to 2016, like this team has finished, that's 7 seasons. This team's finished top 12 5 of those 7 seasons. Like they're super consistent. And one of those years is the COVID year. We kind of all throw that out. Like it was weird, especially in the Big Ten, like talking about not playing at all. And then I don't know, it was just some teams wanting to play, some teams playing like 7 games that season. So that was just a weird year. Like Penn State has been basically a double-digit win season. I mean, he's won 11 games 4 different times in the last 7 years. So I think Penn State's got a pretty high floor, personally.
I'm a Penn State believer this year. I also part of this exercise is it's hard. We like all these top 10 teams. Like all these top 10 teams should be good. So it's hard to parse through this. I think Florida State, like you mentioned, is up there with Mike Norvell. It's a big year for them. You could see them falling off. It's hard for me to see them going unranked. But then Lincoln Riley, he never, like, USC jumps out to me just because in our Pac-12 preview, I did not have him in the Pac-12 title game. And with how top heavy the Pac-12 is, I could see it. I mean, maybe that requires some bad injury luck, but if the defense is as bad as I think it is, then maybe. But, like, it's just, we don't have a track record of Lincoln Riley losing more than 2 regular season games. Like, the dude just goes 12-2, 12-2, 12-2, 9-2, 10-2, 11-3. Like, he's 66-13 as a head coach. So it's like, as much as I could talk myself into USC not making the Pac-12 title game or losing a couple games late because of that back into their schedule, which is so brutal, I don't see like Lincoln Riley just doesn't do it. Like, to get to a point where they go unranked, it's just going to take like probably 4 losses. And I'm not sure I can do that. I think 9-3 is probably where I'm at with USC, but I still think that's probably ranked. And Lincoln Riley, kind of like that Heupel offense, is just, and when you have a Heisman level quarterback, it's just going to be really hard for them to finish unranked if he plays in 12 games.
Yeah, I changed my answer. I'd say it's Georgia. I think they're going to go 7-5. And I just think they're taking a step back. Also, Georgia this is why the Georgia being doubted conversation was so stupid. Like, to write it like a month ago or 2 months ago, whoever, I think it was Mike Griffith. Like, the preseason predictions hadn't come out yet. Like, so what are you talking about? Like, well, who's doubted? Who said this thing? Like the Aaron Andrews to Crabtree. Who's saying this about you? Or Richard Sherman. Georgia got 61 out of 66 first place votes in the first coaches poll. It's like no one's doubting them. They're the clear number 1 right now, and it's led the way with all SEC.